Hey, don't forget your brush!
Hello and welcome to Art Shed. I'm Kathy, and in this video we're going to be learning how to draw and paint our Fisherman's Cove canvas painting project. We're going to be doing this in two parts. In the first part we'll learn how to draw it, and in the second part we'll learn how to paint it. So in this first part all you're going to need is some ordinary paper, a pencil and a rubber. Before we start, let's have a really good look at what's going on in this painting. I live in England, and as part of the British Isles, we have lots and lots of really old, higgledy-piggledy fishing villages scattered along our coastline. So in this picture, we've got a collection of houses sitting along a harbour wall. We've got our boathouse right in the middle. We've got our fishing boats bobbing around in the water, and we've got a cheeky seagull standing on his rock, hoping that someone might turn up with some ice cream. So to start this drawing, we're going to need to learn how to draw our houses, the boats, a seagull, and then we're going to be putting the whole picture together. So don't forget, at this point, we're just practicing, so all you need is some ordinary paper and a pencil. So let's get started. We're going to start by learning how to draw the houses. Now there are lots of houses in this picture, but the good news is they are all based on one simple shape, which most of you will know how to do already. When we're little, we tend to draw houses just like this. We know that a roof looks a bit like a triangle, and it's sitting on something that looks a little bit like a box. So we're all familiar with that shape, and then we put our doors and our windows on, maybe a chimney. But really this is just the front of the house. So if we want to put the back of the house on and make our house look more three-dimensional, then we need to start drawing some lines going from here. But the important thing is that these lines start to go uphill. So I'll draw mine first so you can have a look. So you can see I've drawn three lines all at the same angle, and they're all going uphill. But this one is just going to be a straight line, and then this one is going to join like that. And now you can see that we can see a whole house. Now if I wanted to put doors and windows on my house, if I was putting it here on the front bit, that would be nice and easy. And I would just follow these two lines. But if I want to put windows on this side of my house, I have got to look at these lines. So the top and bottom of my windows need to be at the same angle. So if you look at that one, all my lines will start to go uphill. Now what you'll notice is that this house probably looks like it's going uphill a little bit, and that's because we've drawn a line that looks like it's going uphill. Now in my picture I've drawn a boathouse, and I've drawn it so it looks like it's going uphill this way, but it also looks like it's going uphill this way. So I'm going to draw that down here and I wonder if you can see the difference. So I wonder if you can see that this house is now even more three-dimensional than this house, and that's because I've got these lines going uphill as well. So if I want to put a door, and I was going to put a big door on this because this is my boathouse, I would need to make sure that the top of my door is the same angle as that line, which means it's also going uphill. So have a go at these shapes and experiment with these lines and see if you can have houses that look like they're going uphill or even downhill. So now you've had a practice at how to do those basic house shapes, I'm going to show you how we can pile them all on top of each other to create that higgledy-piggledy old fishing village. So there you can see I've got a collection of houses all based on that simple shape, and they all look a little bit wonky, and that's exactly what I want because I'm trying to get that feeling of an old fishing village on a hill. Let's move on now and learn how to draw the fishing boats. Now I remember when I first tried to learn to draw a boat, bobbing on the water, I found it really frustrating. I couldn't quite work out where all the lines should go until I worked out one thing, which is really going to help you, and that is that this line here is actually completely straight. And when you start with a straight line, it's really nice because then you've got something to build on. So make sure you've got some more paper and let's have a practice at the boats. In our painting, the boats are bobbing around on the water, which means they're all kind of at different angles. So the first thing that you need to do is imagine where you want your boat to point. So my first boat I'm going to put down here, and I'm going to imagine that it's kind of pointing that way. So if you remember me talking about that straight line, I'm going to start with a straight line that's going down the hill, and that is that lovely straight line at the back of my boat. Now my boat is pointing that way, so the back of my boat is going to point down like that because the front of it is going to scoop round and join that line. So let's see. I'm going to scoop round and join that line there. Now I'm going to do the front of the boat. Now yours can be as high or as tall as you like. And then the back of the boat actually has a curved line going very similar to that, which is probably not what you would imagine. So that line and that line are quite similar. And then the back of the boat is curving the other way, and this line should be roughly the same angle, just like when we were doing our houses. And now you can probably guess that this can join to there. But remember that our boats are sitting on the water, so actually we don't really need to draw this line in because later on we're going to be painting water on it. But for now, I'm going to draw it in, and you can too if you want to. So I'm just actually going to do it slightly wavy. So it looks like our boat is already sitting in the water. Now what you'll find is that you'll probably see, because of the angle of this boat, you'll see inside it a little bit. So you might see part of the bottom of the boat. So we're going to draw one more straight line, and that's going to go roughly from here and right to the back. So that line there indicates that this is going to be part of the bottom of the boat. And later on, if you want to draw some seats in, you could draw them in, although we will be painting them in, but for practice you could draw them in. And they're going to be roughly the same angle as this line here. But again, don't worry, things do not have to be perfect in art. Wonky lines are good lines. And now this time we've got to remember that anything that we draw behind this boat is going to be further away. And that means it might be a little bit smaller. Now if you remember when we started this boat, I tried to decide which direction it was pointing in. Now I think this time, the one behind it, I'm going to have it pointing down this way. So it's sort of bobbing around, but in a different direction. So this time, I'm going to do an uphill line. So that one I did a downhill line, and this is an uphill line. And I'm going to do this back of the boat in a different direction. So you can experiment with this and decide which ones you like. So don't forget, that was a lovely straight line, and that's a short straight line at an angle. And then we scoop round and join the front of our boat to the back. Now because this one is behind this one, we need to make sure we don't draw on top of it. So this front of my boat goes down like this, and when it hits that boat, I need to stop. And the back of the boat, we're seeing it at a different angle, so it's going to curve down to about here. And then we might have some water. Now this time, I've got to imagine what I might see inside this boat. It's at a different angle to this boat, so I'm going to see something slightly different. Here, I might see this line that goes down, and that's the back of my boat. And I think that's probably enough. I could put a small line across here if I wanted to later on when I paint. So let's do one more. I'm going to do one more up here, which is going to be a bit smaller again. So I'm going to start with that straight line. This time, he's smaller. Again, we've got that little straight line. I'm going to go this way this time. And the scoop. It joins the two together. Then the front of the boat. And the back of the boat. This time, it's a bit like this one. So we've got those two lines. And then some water. So you might want to spend quite a bit of time practicing your boats, because it does take time to get used to working out how to draw them. So don't worry and be patient with yourself. Okay, keep trying and you'll get there, I promise. So we've had a go at our houses, our boats, and now we're ready to practice the whole picture. So make sure you've got a piece of paper and you've got it portrait and not landscape, so that you've got plenty of room to fit the whole picture on it. If at this point you want to draw straight on your canvas, that's fine and totally up to you. So as you can see, our houses are all going to be along the top. We've got our harbour wall going through roughly the middle of our picture, and then we've got our rowing boats, and right at the bottom we've got our rock with our hungry seagull standing on it. To start our drawing and to make sure that we've got everything in the right place, it's going to be really helpful to put in a grid. And what I mean by that is that we're going to be putting a very faint pencil line right across the middle of our page, and we're also going to put one right down the middle. So we'll have 4 different sections on our paper. So I'm going to get mine ready. So I've got my lines ready on my paper here. And we're going to start by drawing our boathouse, because that is the main house around which we're going to put all the other houses. So what we're going to be doing is go to the middle of your picture, and you're going to travel up this middle line and find roughly halfway, and you're going to put a dot there. And then I'm going to draw a line just right along that middle line, and it's going to be about that tall, so it's almost half of that top bit. And that is the corner wall of my boathouse. And if you remember how we drew the houses earlier on, I'm now going to draw my boathouse just here in the middle. Now my harbour wall was divided into 2 sections, and the boathouse was on the front section. So I'm going to draw that in now, and it curved around the back just like that. And then this is why we've got our halfway line. It's going to go all the way down to sit on our halfway line. And then this bit curved round to our halfway line as well. I've left a gap there because I was going to put a boat in there. So this is the front bit of my harbour wall, and that's the bit where you can walk down into the sea. So the other section just kind of went off in a wave from here, like that, and this bit here kind of just followed it like that. So now you're just going to spend some time piling up your houses like we learnt earlier. So I'm just going to draw mine. You can watch me do mine, and then you can have a go at yours. You can put as many or as few houses in as you like. So I've put my houses in, and you'll notice there's no windows and doors. You don't need to draw any windows and doors or chimneys, because we're going to paint those on later on. So this house here, I think I'm going to have it sitting on another wall, which is going to come round like this, straight line down like that, and then this is going to curve round. So now I've got another wall here, and that drops down, and this wall is going to be the sea. Now I've been using a piece of charcoal, so you might notice it goes all a bit smudgy. Also, like I said, my lines might be a bit wibbly or wobbly, but I think you can get the idea. So spend some time getting this top half of your picture done. So your houses and your harbour walls. and then we'll stick the boats in. Before I put my boats in, it will be helpful for me to put my seagull on the rock. So this halfway line is going to be useful again because my rock is kind of going to grow out of there and come up to about here. I want it to be quite big because it's the thing that's right in the foreground of our picture. Now our seagull is a really easy shape. It's just a nice big smile on its side, and then most of the way across I'm going to put a straight line, just leave a gap there, and then just there, if I can do that correctly, that's his head and his beak, his eye and his wing. And my seagull has only got one leg there. I think the other leg is hiding behind that one. Nice and easy, our seagull. So I'm nearly there, just got to put in my fishing boats now. And because I put everything else in, I know where I've got space to put them in. So I'm going to start with the 3 that were in the water, and I'm going to start with the one that's nearest to me, the one at the front. So he's going to be roughly down here. So if you remember, I drew my straight line, and I'm deciding this boat's going to point down that way. So that's all we need to draw before we paint. I've just put on some doors because I wanted my boathouse to look like the doors were flung open, and so I've just put those on, and these lines I can always rub out later on. So have a good practice at this, and once you're confident you can draw it onto whatever you're going to be painting on, and when you're happy with your drawing, outline it in a black permanent marker. I use a black Sharpie pen, but you can use any permanent marker. It's important that it's permanent because otherwise when you put paint on, you don't want the black ink to run everywhere. So good luck with your drawing, and I'll see you in the second half where we'll learn how to paint it.
Hey, don't forget your brush!